everybody. Welcome back to Gentlemen for Cinephiles. It is ALFRED August. It's the final full week. I can't believe it.
I can.
It's already August. It's already like late August, and I can't believe it.
I can because time flies.
It's true.
So
today we are talking about Spellbound, but Felicity is first going to tell us a beautiful story.
Oh, so, I can't remember. I think this was 2010. A classmate and we were doing a tap number, and it was a duet, and it was to the song Twilight Zone, Twilight Tone, which is a reimagining of, like, the Twilight Zone theme, but, like, adding lyrics to it and, like, adding on a whole bunch of, like, sound effects and stuff to it, so it's, like, kind of like a narrative and a journey. It's a really cool song. I can't remember who does it, but it's called Twilight Zone, Twilight Tone. Well, we were doing a tap dance to this, and we were having an event for May 25th, which is Bill Bojangles' birthday, which is also National Tap Dance Day for...
That would be National Tap Dance Day.
For us Americans. 1 second.
I thought the building just shut off all the lights, and I was like, cool. Anyway.
So we're doing this tap dance to this amazing song. So the dance ends, and we are posing.
Uh-huh.
And we are posing.
Uh-huh.
And we are posing.
I love that.
We cannot move until the lights go off. We're not allowed to move till the lights go off. Then all of a sudden, the sound guys started playing the Alfred Hitchcock theme on, like, a loop. So we're like, I guess we're just going to make up a dance to this Alfred Hitchcock theme now.
That's iconic.
So we did that for about, like, a minute before the lights just suddenly cut out on us. So we didn't even get to finish that, like, impromptu number.
Do you have this filmed? Because I need this filmed.
No, we don't have it filmed. Sorry. It was a live show, and we do not have it filmed. And I'm so mad about it because that's probably one of my favorite tap numbers I've ever done.
Me too, straight up, honestly. And I haven't even seen it.
Need more improv tap in my life.
Yeah.
Well, so that you guys know, Erynn and I, we have a show called Diamond and Pearl, and we are going to do a tap dance-off for one of our episodes.
But Felicity was just going to kick my ass.
That sounds like something a tap shark would say.
Mm-hmm.
We're in the money. That's not even a tap number.
No, it's not.
But, so yes, today we are talking about Spellbound. And I gotta say, I'm just gonna go out and say it. Oh, are you okay?
Sorry.
I'm
dying. I apologize.
Spellbound is a film that I completely missed the point of the first time I saw it. And I'm here and I'm willing to admit my mistakes. What?
See, Erynn is incapable of making mistakes, so I'm telling you right now that she's lying.
I thought it was misogynist garbage the first time I watched it.
You mean it's not? I'm kidding.
What's funny is I actually remember that. Like, I remember being in class and you and someone else were talking about, oh yeah, I might skip out on Spellbound. I just really don't like it. And like,
yeah, and then I rewatched it and I was like, okay, maybe I misinterpreted it.
Well, we had to like watch it twice. I believe one time was for like Hollywood history. The other time was
for the Hitchcock class. We watched it in horror film?
Yeah, we watched it in horror film.
Why the fuck did we watch it in horror film?
Did you watch it in horror film or horror film?
Horror film. I'm sorry. There's a story behind the way I.
They're both valid pronunciations.
Well, there is a story about the reason why I say horror film versus horror film.
Uh-huh.
Do you want me to tell it?
Yeah.
So, when I was a child growing up, my mother would not...
You said that very dramatically, when I was a child.
When I was a child growing up, my mother did not like the word horror, because she goes, you're not a whore. A whore's a prostitute. It's horror. We say horror in this house. And so I was only allowed to say horror like a pirate.
You were like, you mateys.
Oh my
god.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my god. You guys missed it, but Evelyn just pulled her tit out and went, arr.
I was trying to pull my arm into my shirt, but I forgot I'm wearing like an off-the-shoulder top.
I loved it. I just thought she was pulling that power move like that one pirate woman who had her breast out all the time. Like, just one of them out, just one tit. I was like, yes, Evelyn.
That's very Amazonian of her.
Yeah, I love that.
I'm sorry.
We love you, Evelyn.
So yeah, that's the only reason why I say horror versus horror.
Oh, that's okay. But so Spellbound, it kind of serves. It's similar to Marnie in that it deals a lot with trauma and how much childhood trauma sticks with us, which is kind of a running theme throughout Hitchcock.
Was he abused as a child? Is that what the story we're actually getting to?
Probably.
Kinda.
What? Yeah. Well,
Kind of.
Somebody told
Yeah.
us. I think you talked about this a little bit, Evelyn.
On one of our early podcasts,
It was The
I talked
Lodger,
about,
I think. The Wrong Man.
that, like,
or-
Hitchcock had one of the, when he was young, his father would, I can't remember, like, he might have actually done it, but I know at least he threatened him with it, with, like, if you're bad, I'll take you to the police station and they'll throw you in a jail cell overnight. And, like, that caused, that's kind of what people trace Hitchcock's fixation on characters who kind of get accused of things that they didn't do, and characters who have the law after them, and that's kind of the start of his sort of I guess fear of being branded for something that you didn't necessarily do. But yeah, based on that, one could assume that his relationship with his dad probably wasn't like the best.
Also, like, his mom was a super like I think she was like a type of Catholicism, and she was like super strict about it too. So like there's also that level, like religion on hard mode strict, like, you know what I mean?
Like your
Also
dirty
be- yeah.
pillows.
Yeah.
Also being Catholic in England, who
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah,
oh
and
boy.
like it was almost like his family life was almost Edwardian.
Well, yeah, that makes sense.
So
well,
yeah.
It was
his life it was
Edwardian.
Edwardian.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about England. It was Edwardian. So like, there's that level too of like, you know, abuse. I'm just gonna go ahead and say it, abuse.
Okay, let's face it. It is. It is.
Yeah.
yeah.
Anyway, but yeah, so Hitchcock, Spellbound is about that. It's Gregory Peck, I believe, and
Yes.
Ingrid Bergman.
Bergman.
Ingrid Bergman. And they are with a little Freud, and they deal with their problems.
Salvador
No,
Dali.
pretty much Salvador
does
Dali.
some
Salvador
stuff.
Dali shows up.
I like how you say little Freud because
Yeah.
that could
Also, okay, can I tell you guys? I had a note. This podcast episode, just so you guys know, we're recording it at 2 a.m. and we just keep going on like stories about our lives. So if you're curious as to why, that's why. So
Days of
I
our
found
lives.
a note. I found a note.
Implying we wouldn't do this at any time of the day.
Oh my God, straight up though. I found a note on my, as if this isn't our middle of the day. But anyway.
well, it kind of is.
I found a note in my phone, right? Like in my iPhones, like iPhone notes, and it just said, Freud sits in the movie theater of a matinee. He feels alone in the crowd, and that's all it said. And I don't know why I wrote it down or where I found that or what, but that's all it said. But Freud is a huge part of Spellbound for a lot of reasons. Hitchcock pretty much writes in a little Freud. And the whole movie is based on unlocking the trauma of Gregory Peck's character's life and like why he's triggered by certain things. And it's pretty much just a super psychological film of somebody breaking down, somebody, I guess, trying to figure out where their trauma is, why their triggers are the way they are, et cetera, et cetera.
I really love how you keep referring to him as little Freud, as if that cannot be misconstrued as a sexual euphemism.
Oh, it is a euphemism. Little Freud. I hate him. I hate Freud. I found an old high school journal too. I found an old high school like folder in my Google Drive, and there's a bunch of Freud documents that are just say, why is there so much Freud? And then another one is named, I hate Freud. And then the third one is named Freud Sucks, and I hate him.
I don't know what. I totally enjoy his works on a purely comedic level. Like, I like learning about it and laughing at it, going, this is a human being.
I love that everybody talks about him so much, because literally everything he said was wrong.
Well, here's the thing, though.
He
Like,
helped out Bill and Ted, you know. You gotta give him credit for that.
okay.
I love that.
Well, like, the reason why he's talked about, like, so often is because he would kind of, like, help legitimize psychology as an actual science.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, though. Like, when you get everything wrong, why is he accredited with
Right?
psychology being an actual science. So it's weird.
But Freud is such a huge part, in part by Hitchcock, because Hitchcock just deals very strongly with Freud, but also because there was a huge Salvador Dali sequence in Spellbound, which we'll talk about that as we keep going along.
Spoiler alert, they wanted it to be 30 minutes.
Oh, yeah. So let's go ahead and go into the technical elements of the film, because I think in a lot of ways this is Hitchcock's most surrealist film, and it's the most technically separated from a studio film that I think I've seen from him, because it's very abstract.
Yeah.
I think it's because he was really, and this is just my own thoughts, I don't have anything to back this up. I kind of feel like this was his way of like trying to explore his style.
Yeah.
Because his style is always incorporates psychology into his works, but this was the time, it feels so literal because he's exploring like, how do I use this with my narratives?
Yeah.
So
Also, it was like relatively early in his career.
Yeah,
That is true.
1945 is when it came out. I believe it was like one of his first films that he did in America.
And it's interesting because you also have like his very strong like.
Oh no, it was not one of his first films. Is there something that came out beforehand?
No, but this is one of his first
Saboteur.
American films.
Saboteur.
Like, you know,
Yeah.
you could say that.
Oh,
But,
Lifeboat too came out 42.
but you have things like, you know, Ingrid Bergman plays a very strong female character again, and like we said, like we've been talking about with all these female characters, she's the one who's able to unlock his past, and she's also at the crux of it. She's a very accredited, you know, psychologist in this, which is an interesting role to show women in. Especially, it even showcases the boys' club that is psychology, especially at this time.
I have an interesting thought.
Yeah.
On this, I love that he did like put her in a position of power and intellectualism, but at the same time, it's also that interesting trope of like women have to fix men. Somehow, it's like women's job.
Yeah.
To like make man better. It's this old Victorian notion of like you get married to have that piety in your life that balances out your like sinful life as a man.
Which makes sense because it comes from that background too.
It comes from the background. It's the virgin horror complex, because like you got. So, like, you had the woman that was your mistress that you had sex with, and then, like, you had your wife who you just had children with, but, like, it was always up to the women to fix the men in, like, Victorian culture to some degree, unless you were, like, the whore.
Well, I think Ingrid Bergman's character showcases this kind of relationship more, because I think you could say the same thing for Grace Kelly in Rear Window.
Oh, yeah, you could.
But with this one, it's more overt because of the psychological element of it.
Definitely. Well, like,
because on one hand, she's being shown as a powerful woman in terms of intellectualism and psychology, but the catch-22 of that is it creates the women should solve men's problem stereotype. But what were you gonna say?
Oh no, you said it. You're fine.
Lit. But yeah, what were you gonna say, Evelyn? Do you have thoughts?
I was gonna say something, but I don't remember what it was.
I love that.
I'm sorry.
But yeah, there's this misinterpret element as well, and it's almost the wrong man trope in a different sort of way. Instead of it's almost the wrong man's trope in a abstract sense, because it's this idea of this misinterpreted idea of what is causing this man's trauma, if that makes sense, as opposed to it being represented with actual people or represented with like the man at the center of the film. You have an abstraction of the wrong man trope in a psychological sense throughout the film, because you have all these male doctors, you know, thinking that his trauma is coming from one thing, but in all actuality, it comes from this like.
You just want to say what his trauma is.
He was sliding down a rail and he knocks his brother off, and his brother gets fucking stabbed.
It's great.
It's like the weirdest sequence ever, because like they're literally on a ski slope, but it's like an old Hollywood ski slope, so they're on a fucking soundstage going down a ski slope, and they're like, "Remember your past," and he's like, "No," and then like he's going to. It's crazy.
Yeah. This is a great movie, you guys.
It's a wild ass time, but yeah. Let's go ahead and go into the Studio Hitchcock side of it, because this is one of the films where Studio Hitchcock is at odds with the Hitchcock that is ahead of its time. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
the artist, the corporation versus the artist.
Yeah,
But like in the
100%.
same person, not like an actual like two entities.
Yes, so there's a big sequence in the middle of Spellbound where Gregory Peck is talking about a dream that he had. And the sequence in Spellbound as it stands is about 5 minutes. I want to say not even 5 minutes.
No, not even that. Yeah.
But it's narrated by Gregory Peck, and he's explaining the imagery as it goes on. But it's completely Dolly imagery. But Felicity,
Well, it was
somebody
Yeah, I can't
explain
remember
somebody
the
explain the
original.
bigger context. Yeah.
Okay, so
So that is how it stands in the film as the film is released now. But Hitchcock was at big odds with the studio about what it was going to be.
Hitchcock and Salvador Dali actually teamed up to film this scene, and they actually had planned literally 30 minutes worth of footage.
Wow. I think they shot most of it too.
And they did shoot most
Yeah.
of it, and because they really like thought that this was important to understand was the dream psychology in order to understand the character, but the studio was just like, no. And this actually is accredited as the first time a filmmaker got a specialist to do a certain job for the movie, and that was their only job. Because Salvador Dali's only job was to like create the art and do the art direction for this ginormous dream sequence.
No, 100%. Yeah, that's a great. Yeah.
I don't know.
Yes.
I feel like I have the dissenting opinion that like 30 minutes of Dali might have derailed this movie just a little bit.
Oh, it would have.
It's like I think
I
that's
agree.
like that's something whenever we talk about film like directors and like we went up against the studio, and if the studio would have just let them do what they want, it would have been way better. But I think sometimes that butting up against the studio like forces a little more creativity that wouldn't have come out always, and
Yes.
that's a whole rabbit hole
Say
of
it
discussion.
louder for the people in the back.
Well, like here's the
Also, I'm very critical of surrealism because I think that a lot of times it's not honest. And a lot of times it's an excuse to make something that's not, of quality.
Yeah, well, yeah, I love surrealism, but it's definitely something that people can get carried away with.
Yeah, I think I think 9 out of 10 times it's a crutch.
Can I have an unpopular opinion?
Yeah.
I think
Oh my God, yeah, of course.
surrealism is really nice to look at, but I think 9 times out of 10 it means absolutely nothing.
Yeah, and I completely agree.
It's because people don't.
But that's because I
distinguish-
think a lot of people use it as a crutch and they aren't they aren't truly surrealism.
People don't distinguish surrealism and absurdism, so they like.
True.
Yeah, and then you have the Dada movement coming in and like fucking up everything, and I hate it. But we won't talk about that here. I do agree with
we
Evelyn
need
because
to
I do
have
think at his core, Hitchcock is so strong in a traditional narrative sense that him expressing a surrealism side would 100% derail the story because I don't think he has quite a
Yeah.
grasp of.
It would have. I think as it is, it works. But if that part were bigger, it would have clashed. I think a little with the rest of the film.
Yeah.
The film itself is kind of I don't know how to I don't know how to say it not so bluntly. The film of itself is an interesting concept, but I actually don't think it was executed really well because he was trying to explore the surrealist part of himself that kind of like you said, it doesn't exist. He's a pretty traditional narrative.
Well, you
guy.
could tell so much of it was so much of the energy was put into the surrealist sequence that was cut that it almost feels like the rest of the film is a little simple. But I do think it's effective where it's at. I do think it works for all that, for all it's worth. But yeah, the story also is very interesting how it comes into a head at the end with the audience being the one where the audience is shot at, right?
Yeah.
The audience has a gun.
Oh, yeah.
I kind of feel like a film like this would have been better had it been done in the 70s, to be honest. I don't know why. I have a feeling that, like, if you wanted to
But Hitchcock's over there making Frenzy in the 70s, so,
If it would have been like late 60s, they could have gone like kind of psychedelia, and I think that would have benefited
that
this
would've been-
movie really.
Because I'm thinking like if it went like the way of like the Phantom of the Paradise or the Rocky Horror Picture Show-esque type of style,
Yeah.
the surrealism would have really worked for this kind of narrative if you just like went full on like absurd and
Yeah.
just flat out didn't care, like left your resolve was gone.
Yeah,
I-
100%.
I will say, I think my favorite sequence in this film is actually closer to the beginning when they first have that moment where Bergman is like following this trail up to his room.
Oh, yeah.
And like you have like there's like a trail of something. Is it? I want to say flower petals, but I don't think it was.
Let me look. Or are you on the...
No, it doesn't say.
Okay. But yeah, she's like going into his room, and you have that whole sequence feels very. It's like a lessened surrealism, but I think that almost makes it click with the rest of the movie, and then I actually do like that little when they like finally like kiss and everything. And you have that like shot of the doors opening, which is very like on the nose, but I think I don't know, I like it. I think it like kind of. Yeah, I don't know. I think because it's such a short thing, it does an interesting kind of psychological, like I guess that's kind of the way I would use surrealism. But I
feel
like
like
that
the
sequence.
people who made Lucy with Scarlett Johansson watch Spellbound and it's just like, oh, we
Oh
could
my
do that.
God.
Because doesn't it feel like that?
I think the
Like,
people who watched Lucy just ripped off an anime.
Oh no, they definitely
yeah.
did.
Yeah.
But like what I mean by like that level of on the nose and
I
not
really
like
like
trusting
the
your
song.
audience a little bit. Just that's kind of how it feels. Like I'm not a big fan of Spellbound at all, to be honest.
Yeah, that's fair. I do like the end though, because the end, the whole idea, Hitchcock kind of like turning on the audience. He does the same thing in Rear Window, you know, with
Yeah.
reflecting on how an audience creates media and consumes media in the moment, you know. And in Spellbound, turning the gun on the audience is a very interesting, and placing the audience in point of view so many times during Spellbound, it creates an interesting abstraction that I think is abstraction that benefits Hitchcock's filmmaking and enhances, as opposed to, you know, the full-on dream Dali sequence with, you know, I think that one of the things that was cut was Ingrid Bergman naked coming out of a Venus
Oh,
statue
yes,
or
yes.
Okay, that would have been kind of awesome. But
You
Right?
know, I would have adored
I need that gif.
Oh my gosh. Well, all we have is like Uma Thurman in the Munchausen remake.
I think that Spellbound, it's still not my favorite Hitchcock film by any means, but I do think it's a film I wanted to talk about because, you know, the initial viewing that I had on it was, I think, very like misguided, and it was almost that critique I put, you know, when I say like Tarantino indulges in misogyny and people think he's a misogynist because of that. I think this film had a lot of that for me. It dives into like the misogyny of that world Ingrid Bergman is in, but I don't think that inherently makes the film misogynist, you know?
also, I will say I do like the. I can't remember his name, but at the beginning of the movie, there's that one doctor who's kind of smarmy, and he flirts with Bergman a little, but he's also like a character who seems to kind of like she turns him down, and he's not like he accepts that, and he also respects her as a professional.
Yeah.
And I think like in films, I'm always interested by those kind of middling characters that don't necessarily exemplify like not completely the good thing or completely the bad thing.
They're not
Also, it was-
Gaston,
yeah.
but they're not the prince either.
Yeah, and also just he was kind of a what's a non-problematic way. He was kind of a like almost a dandy kind of character, like.
But
Yeah.
like that's very Edwardian, and that fits because
Yeah.
that's the style that was in the Edwardian period is the dandy.
Yas. But that is all the thoughts I had for Spellbound. Did you guys have any other thoughts?
Could have used another draft.
That's fair. Fair.
I'm sorry. I don't mean to rag on it. It's
Apparently,
fine.
I had a thought connecting this film to Psycho, but like. I
Yeah,
mean, I
well,
guess there's
I
like
don't know.
the like psychological breakdowns in both of them. I don't know.
Was it the very last was it Gregory? No, Gregory Peck's not in fucking Psycho. What the fuck am I
No.
thinking?
There's not many
Was it the
versions.
last moment of Psycho though? I don't know.
What the last
She
moment
would
of
even
Psycho
hurt
with
to
like
fly.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know. Huh. If we remember the thought, you can hear it in our Waltzes from Vienna episode.
So I have a thing that I need to bring up because
Yeah.
the guy who played the Dr. Andre in The Fly just died this week from the 1958
Aw,
The Fly.
that's so sad.
So
Then the guy from Blade Runner died this week.
So like,
We're not
Rutger
pre-recording.
Hauer, yeah.
We're not pre-recording podcasts for August.
True.
What?
Oh, I'm sorry. So anyway, the reason why I want to bring this up is because like, so we had the Fly in the end. Is like, help me, the Fly, and then like with Psycho, he's like, she wouldn't even hurt a fly. Like, what is it with these flies? Because they came
hate
together in like
flies.
two-year periods.
Flies are disgusting.
I'm sorry. That's all I had to say. I had nothing intellectual to say about it except for like to observe the fact that there's this weird fetish with flies.
Ugh, I hate that. I feel gross now. I'm gonna go throw up.
Well, it's because you gotta unzip the fly to get.
Oh
Oh
my
my
gosh.
god.
Well, also because like they had The Fly 2. They came out in like 60 something.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Vincent Price was also in that too, by the way.
So where can they find you guys?
They can find me at EV Override on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter.
I am Victoriana Gray on both YouTube and Instagram, and that is Gray with an A.
Yes. And then you can find me at _Renaissance Woman. You can find me on the podcast, Gentlemen for Cinephiles, Facebook, iTunes, Spotify, Instagram, etc., etc. And we will see you guys for the rest of Alfred August. We only have 2 episodes left. Can you believe it?
Heck.
Which was, other than Lady Vanishes, what's the other one?
Lady Vanishes already came out. What are you talking about?
So what's the last one?
The last 2 episodes are I Confess and Waltzes from Vienna.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I Confess is really good also.
Mhm. Yeah.
I have not
Excellent.
seen I Confess at all. I'm gonna have to watch
Excellent.
it.
You have to. But goodbye.